Hello, friends out there in YouTube land. I hope you are all doing well on this Sunday afternoon, or at least it's Sunday afternoon here in Portland where we are. My name is Eric. I am one of the producers here at the Mystery Box Show. And we wanted to come to you today to let you know about what's coming up on the channel. First of all, thank you to everybody who has subscribed and who keeps watching for all the content that we have, the sex stories, the confession corners, and our brand new YouTube series called Sex People, where we bring in a bunch of panelists to talk about different sexual topics and answer sex questions from people out there. Hey, B Squared, how's it going? I'm just going to be interrupting myself to say hello to people who pop into the chat. Is that professional? Not quite sure, but I'm going to be doing it because it's friendly. That's what it is, and that's who I am, friendly. But yeah, so we have this new series, Sex People, where we get our panelists to answer sex questions from people who call in and leave anonymous voicemails. And we have so many coming up, so many people scheduled to join us. We want to get sex questions from as many people as have them, from as wide a variety of questions as possible. Hey, James Fry, how's it going? V Squared, you can just sit and watch. You don't need a sex question to enjoy, but you can always come up with one. I don't. I find that I'm like constantly, I hear something and I'm like, oh, I wonder about that. This is the place to ask. We have panelists coming up, for example, just on our next couple of tapings, we have Rain DeGrey, we have Sampson McCormick, Reba Sparrow coming back, Tatiyanna Shirley, we've got Reid Mihalko, Davey Wavey, Jessie Gender, Amory Jane, sex toy expert, Veasey, Ian Jenkins, just off the top of my head, that's who I can remember, Hunter Riley and Kristine D'Angelo. If you haven't heard her podcast, So I Married a Sexologist, you should definitely check that out. And the questions can be about anything sexual that you can come up with. The questions we've had so far have been like, how do I dirty talk? My partner wants me to dirty talk, but I feel weird doing it. Or like, I think I'm too loud during sex. How do I get over this? Or how do I not be as loud? Or how can I tell my partner that they're learning too many sex moves from porn and I don't like it? So any sex questions that you have, I will draw the line. We'll draw the line at anything medical, because anything that at any of our panelists, we're not medical experts, most of us, and we're not really authorized to give medical advice. Certainly not on YouTube. And if it's anything that's really concerning you, you should probably go see a doctor or Planned Parenthood. B Squared says, I don't have anything that I'm wondering about currently, but this is the best place. It really is. Thank you. And we're so glad to see you every single time. Yeah. The conversations that we've had with these Sex People live streams so far has been unbelievable. And I say they've been live streamed so far. We're actually moving to a way that we're pre-recording them now, so that we can take as many questions as we can and really get a focused conversation. Because the conversations have been so wonderful and wide-ranging, and sometimes it feels like it's constrained to be like, okay, well, this is all the time we have for this conversation. We really want to let them go all over the place. The topics we've had so far have been about like sexual shame, sexual citizenship, the transgressive nature of kink, problematic artists. So we really want to get everybody involved in this Sex People series as we can. So the number to call, if you have a sex question, if you have a question that is just like running through your mind and I'm like, who do I go for answers? You go right here to 971-267-3950 and leave an anonymous sex question. You can leave your name if you want to, but it's certainly not required. Mr. Duberant says, ever heard how the men's masturbator? I'm not sure what you mean. Like how do men masturbate? The Venus, is it worth it? Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, actually. The Venus, I think that's the Venus made by the same people who make the Sibian sex machine, if that's the one that you're talking about. I'll reveal a little something. I've had a little experience with that with that Venus machine. I don't know if I was using it quite properly because it wasn't the best experience that I've ever had, but I'm also not the most mechanically minded. And unlike the Sibian, if for those of you who've heard of that, the Venus seemed to require a little more prep work and mechanical tweaking to get working just right. And I don't think I did it quite right. So I got rid of my Venus. Yeah, it was about $1,000. I saved and saved for it. And do I regret it? I'm not sure I can answer that question for myself. But I wouldn't get another one for me. Some people, it might be exactly what you're looking for. But hey, that could be a perfect question to call in for and say, like, hey, what is the best sex toy? Of course, everybody's going to have their own personal preferences, but like, should I set a price range? Because some people are like, I've never had a sex toy before and I want to try it, but I see they're also expensive. A lot of them start at like the $60 range, which I don't think is too expensive, but for some people it's prohibitive. So they'll go for like cheaper, maybe $5 little vibrators, and then they'll try it out and they'll say, this wasn't anything interesting, and I don't get what the big deal about sex toys is. And a lot of times it's because this is one of those areas where the price is worth what you get out of it. Well, then I'm glad I could provide an opinion. Take into account, Mr. Dugarin, that's just one person's opinion. Your mileage may vary. I don't think that they would keep selling them if people weren't satisfied with them. So that was my experience. You might have a completely different experience. B squared. Oh, see, just a little bit of wheel turning, a little bit of gear spindling, and you've got a question. That's awesome. So what else can I tell you about what's coming up with the show? Not only do we have sex questions, we've got topics like sex and religion, sex and feminism, all kinds of other sexual questions around that area, sexuality, sex and pop culture, things that you see in movies and TV and how that relates to the way that we interact with one another. It's just been so much fun to have these conversations, especially in a time when having people live in person having conversations is so either rare or non-existent. So we want to hear from you. Send us in your voicemails with your sex questions. Nothing is off the table. And if we get them, and if it's the right kind of question, which is almost any kind of sex and sexuality question, it'll appear on the show with one of our upcoming panelists, and you'll see it. We'll release it right here on the YouTube channel in segments. Let's see. I'm looking at the comments here. Watashi, the Hitachi ones. Yes, the Hitachi ones are notorious for being like the Cadillac of vibrators for sure. And many different companies have their own take on the wand, so you can do some exploration there. I'll say it's unfortunate that sex toys are a category of product where you don't really get to try it out and then return it if you don't like it. It's completely understandable that you are not allowed to do that, because I don't think that there's a huge market for once used sex toys. But it is a bit of a do I want to say risk going into it? You don't want it to be a risk, and that's why you really want to do your research. There's plenty of resources out there. One of our favorites, of course, is here in Portland. They're called Shebop. You can find them at sheboptheshop.com, and they have incredible people answering questions and selling toys, and just making you feel the most like you're dealing with the most friendly people. And we'll actually have one of their sex toy experts, Amory Jane, on the show very soon. I think she's coming up in June. We'll be releasing those videos. Let's see what else people are saying in the comments there. Part of the fun of buying toys is the anticipation. It is like, I know what you mean, especially when you get the tracking number and they're being delivered and you want to make sure that you're home, and then you open it up. Sex toys these days, when I was growing up, when I was first, old enough to be interacting with sex toys, or at least seeing them in a store that I was allowed to go into, they were still in their primitive area. The designs weren't quite as attractive as I think they are now, and they were doing what they could. But whether it was because engineering wasn't there, or just the market wouldn't bear the price it took to develop and design these things, the materials certainly weren't there. These days, sex toys, they're gorgeous. They're almost like works of art. And different things work for different people. I'm certainly no expert, but I know that, the difference between silicone and glass toys, some people like that. Some people really enjoy the sensation of more thrusting than a vibration. Some people have been finding ways to use vibration sensation all over their body, not just on the typical erogenous zones. I'm speaking a little bit out of my area right now. This is why we have the sex people coming in to talk about the stuff that they know about. It's my privilege to serve as the host for those conversations. So once again, this was just a quick check-in to see how you're all doing and to say hello and to remind you that we want your sex questions. If you have anything you'd like to know about at all, or get an opinion about, an experience you'd like to share that say like, hey, what did this mean? I'm not quite sure how to process this. Call in to 971-267-3950 and leave a voicemail. It's all anonymous, and it'll make it onto the Sex People Show. We'll get it in front of our panelists. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody, and thanks to everybody who's subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because that'll remind you whenever we have a new video going live or whenever we have a live stream happening. And we can't wait to see you there. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.